guys, I'm David with Yellowhammer Woodcrafts. This is a long awaited video. I've been working on these letters for the Marry Me rental sign for about a week now. This was the letter that I went through to show you all how to build these and the full process. So stick around and I'll show you exactly how I built this from the beginning to the end. But before we get into building these, I want to talk a little bit about this business venture that I've been on recently with these letters. I started out selling these letters to event planners, wedding coordinators, and people like that. If you've never thought about selling to event planners, you really need to contact some and see what they could get you to build for them, because that's pretty much all I've been doing for the past year and a half is building for event planners, party planners, wedding coordinators, people like that. The possibilities for that kind of work is endless. They always want some kind of custom work. I've built almost the entire alphabet for these marquee letters. They love them for parties, and event coordinators will spend a lot of money on things like this, and they don't mind paying what you're charging because they know they're going to get their money back with rentals and events that they're planning. So what I recently started doing is building my own set of these letters, and this is one of them. This is going to go with the Marry Me, as you see in the picture. So I've built all the letters for Marry Me, and I've also built the number 16. I rented the 16 out about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago for a 16-year-old's birthday party. I rent the letters for $45 a letter, or for a special phrase like Marry Me, I take a little bit off. I rented the Marry Me sign for $300, and that's renting out in a couple weeks. And this is passive income, guys. So if you think about it, yeah, it's a lot of work up front to make these and a lot of time, but they're yours forever. So you can rent these as long as you want and keep making money. And the only thing that you're doing is just passing them to the person and getting them back. I don't do deliveries unless they really want me to and they pay the money for it, because I live pretty far from Birmingham, so I don't want to be involved in deliveries. So if you live in a big city or a pretty populated area and they do a lot of parties or events and there's spaces for that kind of stuff around you, this is definitely something to look into. I also build champagne walls and vendor carts and things like that. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, check out my channel. There's more videos about that kind of stuff on there. And I have build plans for vendor carts and the champagne wall. So I try to answer everybody's questions about the business side and building these that I can. So if you're interested in the business part or how to build these and there's not something that I answer in the video, just leave me a message down below and I'll respond to every message. So let's get started. So we start out with a 1/4 inch sheet of plywood and we cut it to the size that the plans tells us to. And then I go over to my desk and draw out the letter by hand. Of course, this will be a lot faster and easier if you had a CNC, but I do not have one yet. It is in the works, but I have to draw these out by hand for now. It only takes about 10 to 15 minutes, so it's really not that hard. You just draw them out using a level and a square, measure, and it's pretty simple. And then you mark for the holes, drill your holes. I use a 1 inch Forstner bit. So as you can see, yes, I cut these out with a jigsaw. It does take a little bit of time, but it's not that difficult. One tip is to get a scroll cutting blade. It makes it a lot easier and a lot cleaner lines. And then after I get them cut out, I just sand the edges to get the little burrs off. And that's all there is to it. For the sides, I cut 4 inch strips like the plans say, and I use 3/4 inch sanded ply. I think it's about $69 a sheet. and then I start making my sides. I do all the cuts on the miter saw, all the angles on the miter saw. A lot of these angles that you see, like this angle, these are all 45s. So this is real easy to do, but the plans tell you what the angles are. Like this angle right here is not a 45 and neither is this one, but the plans tell you. So all you have to do is set your miter to whatever the angle is. And it'll tell you for these too if you don't want to show the edges, but just to make it easy, I cut 45s. So to attach the sides, I use Top Bond 2 glue, and I put it on every spot that touches the back and the sides that touch each other. I also put it there, as you can see in the video. And I use 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad nails. That works the best because with a 1/2 inch back, if you go any longer than that, sometimes they tend to pop out the back, and that still happens with the 1 1/4, but not as much. If that happens, just take some needle nose pliers and break the end of the brad nail off. I use white door and window caulk for every spot that has an edge. So every back, corner, edge, everything, I put caulk on that. And every nail hole, I just spread some caulk over that and sand it, and then it's ready to paint. All right, now for the sanding. Everyone loves this part, right? So I just go around all the edges where I caulk the nails and try to get into every spot I can with the sander. The ones I can't, I just take the sanding pad off and use my hand. And then I go around the edges to get all the burrs off and the splinters and stuff. I've started to paint the backs with a roller because it uses less paint than the sprayer, and honestly it's a lot faster because you don't have to clean up the sprayer. So as you can see, it goes on pretty quick, and I put 2 coats on the back. And then I spray the front, the inside, and the sides. And you'll have to use 2 coats if you're using a sprayer also. It's really hard to paint with a brush, so I suggest if you don't have a sprayer, you can use a cheap Wagner like I started out doing, but it's not recommended. This sprayer works a lot better than that Wagner. You'll want to use a roller on the edges because the edge of plywood is hard to get paint down in. So I use a roller for that, and it works a lot better. And then I just go over the sides with the roller after I sprayed it just to even it out. Well, if you made it this far, congratulations, we're on to the wiring. These are called vampire sockets, male and female ends. You need SPT2 sockets. You can find those on Amazon, and I'll leave the links to them in the description below. They're easy to put on. The wire just slides in there, and they have little vampire teeth that go into the wire, and then you slide this cover over it. Sometimes you have to use pliers to get the cover on, but it goes on real simple. Anybody can do the wiring. It's not that hard. You don't have to be an electrician or anything like that. So after you get the male end on, you want to put it out about 8 to 10 inches, long enough to plug into another letter. And then you take your socket. These are C7 sockets with the little vampire teeth in them. Make sure you get SPT2. You want to stay with 2 on everything or 1 on everything, SPT1. And I use SPT2 18 gauge, and it's just lamp wire is all it is. These sockets, you push the wire down into the pins, and then they have a little clip on the back. and you can squeeze that clip in with some pliers like this. And normally you'll feel the little pins go in there, and then I just break the clip off. All these are is Christmas lights. I just break the clip off to make it look better, and it fits down in the hole better. Then you center it up on the hole. Use your staple gun, and I staple each side. I put one staple in each side, and then when I start running the wire around the letter, I put one staple in the middle and then go to the next socket. So I put the wire over the hole, and then I line it up to where it needs to be, and then I push the wire down in the next socket and push the clip over. And you just keep going until you have the whole letter wired. And sometimes when you squeeze these in, you'll feel it not go in. It's hard to explain what the feeling is, but you can almost tell it didn't make a good connection. And if it doesn't, you'll know when you screw the bulb in. And if it doesn't make a good connection, you just have to take it off and redo it. One thing to note is when you're stapling these in, if you happen to staple into the wire, just make sure you pull that staple out. You don't want to leave that in the wire to cause a short. Okay, so here's a little tip for these sockets. The little vampire teeth in there sometimes can bend. To keep the wire as flat as possible when you're squeezing it together. And when you put it down in there, just take your finger and push on it a little bit, and it'll stick the vampire teeth in there long enough to hold it. And then you put your clip on until it clicks like that. And when you squeeze it together with your pliers, you want to make sure the wire is not twisted in there. And when you squeeze it together, those vampire teeth will go into each side. If they don't go into each side of the wire, when you screw the bulb in, it's not going to work. And every now and then you'll get some that do that, because these little sockets are made in China. I get mine from a company called Bher Lighting, and since I've been getting them from there, they've been pretty good. I've already built 2 letters today, and none of them had any bad sockets on it. When you're putting your male and your female ends on, just make sure that you leave enough sticking out on both sides. That way you can plug another letter in, and whoever's renting them or buying them, they can string the letters together, and you only need to plug in one to an extension cord or in the wall, and then they all plug together. That's what makes these nice. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. That is how you build the letter R. And if you're interested in building these and starting your own rental company, and you got questions, like I said, just let me know down in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. If you're interested in the wiring, you can find all the links down in the description for that. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, and check out some of these other videos right here. And we'll see you next time.